Well, hello everybody. Welcome to our second episode of our second book, and we have read chapters 3 and 4 of Unseen and Unbroken, and we're going to start a discussion on chapter 3, which was about advocacy. And the question I sort of thought of when I read this chapter was, how can I advocate for something when I really can't be seen or heard? And so, Cynthia, Sandy, Mishkat, any comments you want to kind of jumpstart us into?
I can start if you'd like. I think finding your cause will lead you to finding your voice.
Oh, I like that.
So I wanted to stand up for women who were experiencing domestic violence, women who were losing custody of their children, not because they did something wrong,
Right.
but because the system is stacked up against them. And
Hmm.
they needed someone to present their case, to bring them their rights, to make them feel heard and seen. Um, I think that's what most people who are trying to stay unbroken would do. So you can do it for yourself. So you will choose the next best thing to do.
Hmm.
From there, you will find your voice. Somehow, it's like your voice is being amplified.
So it sort of grows out of personal passion and moves into other people who have similar and maybe even similar in different circumstances. And so that's how you find your voice, because it's so important that you find a way. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Cynthia, any additional comments?
I'm really glad Mishkat offered that because I highlighted I had no one to advocate for me. And so what she did is she relied on a resolve.
Hmm.
Resolve, you don't just jump up one morning and have resolve.
Hmm.
So, Mishkat, for you to find your reasoning, your passion, your something that you really cared about, then you found your voice. It triggered.
It makes sense.
I thought that was fabulous. You asked,
Thank you.
you did things in here that I really want to ask more questions about. I'm dying to know if any of the laws that were in place stayed in place. So I'll move on to Sandy input, and then I would love to ask a question about the laws.
Well, I was just going to say that your passion made you brave, Mishkat, that you went against you went upstream versus downstream with your thought process. And I would say that advocating also happens one conversation at a time. You may not be able to be in a big venue to be able to share your passion. Sometimes it's the underground that has to happen. You have to do the connecting person and have a chance to share your thought processes with each other.
Well, and I'm thinking the passion piece kind of, without saying it, has to do with the energy you bring to it. And almost the energy you bring to it helps you have an advocacy conversation with other people that
Right.
have similar problems. You know what I mean? It's almost like the empathy travels through space. You know. So, anything else you can comment on before we give Cynthia the floor?
I'll
Ask
sh-
a question.
Please go ahead, Cynthia, if you
No,
want.
no.
We want
Listen,
to hear your questions, kiddo.
when we have certain marches on my little island where or protest marches, I can go there because I'm with a whole team of people.
Right.
And I can look up and down the road and see other men and women standing there um, asking for peace, standing um, for democracy. And if I have to stand up in front of people alone, that's where you just are giving me the encouragement that I'm watching you as a young woman when here I am so much older today and going, ooh, I don't know if I could do that alone. So this book is something else, Mishkat. It is, and I love saying your name. When you said your name
Thank you.
was a taboo to say your beautiful, beautiful name, I go, oh my God! I even wrote it in my margin. Her beautiful name is Mishkat.
Thank you. I'd like to share a story of a woman that I worked with, a client, and basically she did not want to divorce her husband. You know, that part is always tricky because she will be the outcast, or she would have been the outcast in the society, and she had several kids, so that was a tough reality for her. The issue was, number one, she was really a polite, sensitive lady living with someone who was brutal to her. He didn't hit her, so at least we don't have that part, but he was verbally abusive, neglectful. Even the kids suffered from trauma from the way he treated their mother in front of them. So I worked with her to empower her. I told her one of the issues that you are struggling with is your identity. You need to learn how to ask for things because it's your right. If you choose to stay in this marriage, that's fine, but then you need to get what is owed to you, including your financial needs, including your other needs, whatever it is your need. He is or he was responsible for it. So I started giving her tasks one at a time. The first one was to go down because she lived above of her in-laws. And of course, they intervene and they caused so many troubles. I told her, go down and ask for something. I don't care what it is, but I want you to call me back and say, I asked for this and they gave it to me. And surely, next week she called me and she said she asked for a couple of items, not one. It's true, all households or are things she needed in the kitchen, but she got them. And slowly, she started to stand up for herself. And
Wow.
I recall one of our exercises was oftentimes he would call her names or embarrass her in public just for the fun of it. So I told her, fine, face the teller because it happened in a store and tell him, see how my husband treat me. This is his standard. Look at my standard now. He didn't repeated it. Never ever happened again.
Woohoo!
Well, it sounds like welcome theory. Let
Yeah.
them do it, and then this is what I'm going to do. That's
Right.
powerful.
Wow.
Well, and what jumped out at me while you were saying those things is that it reminds me of in some movie. It's like take baby steps, Bob. You taught her how to take one step at a time, empowering herself, giving herself permission and agency to be powerful. That's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
I remember the story you told in the book of the woman who asked for the divorce and everything, her possessions were destroyed. All of her
Yes,
personal possessions, inheritances from her mother, and they destroyed. I mean, they did everything they could to make her life miserable.
that is true. And no matter, how the country tries to present its laws as being progressive and whatnot, in reality, it comes down to implementation.
Mhm.
If you have to prove and keep proving things all the way up, then no matter how wonderful the law looks, it won't support you. And that's the key point here. If you make justice so expensive to get, and so much layers that you have to go through,
Right.
you will not get justice.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Uh, I still remember, for example, one judge who used to tell attorneys, I don't like what you say, go back and stand in the corner. And oftentimes he would save that for female attorneys. Not that there were many of them, but oftentimes in divorce cases and whatnot, a woman would feel comfortable, talking to another woman. And I observed his court, and oftentimes I would say to myself, how could he behave that way? Is that a behavior of a judge? I have to admit, I did not present anything in front of him, but I observed his court. On the other hand, there were judges who were supportive, and they understood that the law is stacked, and until now, it is the same case. It's stacked against the woman. For example, the husband can discipline his wife. Why? What type of a relationship is that where you have a partner disciplining another partner? It's not acceptable for kids, it's not acceptable for pets, it's not acceptable for any living being.
Mm-hmm.
Why you establish a relationship, in such a way? And then, you have all these customs that deprive a woman of her rights.
Yeah.
She has to stand up in front of a judge and say, yes, I received my dowry. In reality, she received nothing. And then, when they have to separate and get divorced, she had to, like chase after everything she's
Right.
owed.
Yeah.
And again, once you have a family, build that way and accept that as the legal base, of course, there's no peace.
Right.
The family itself is distorted. So, how come,
Mm-hmm.
we can say that the bigger picture is peaceful and acceptable and, prosperous? Of
Mm-hmm.
course, it won't be.
No. And
And
you go ahead.
please, I wanted to say to Cynthia's point, which is really very brave point. Even if you can't go to the protest, or if you can't take a stand for what you feel is right or yours, do like, my client. So, what's the easiest step that you can take that makes you comfortable?
Right.
You don't have to jump 10 stairs to prove yourself. Take, as Sue said, a baby step.
Right.
What makes you comfortable
Mm-hmm.
in the process, and then it will grow until you can express yourself fully.
The baby step is going to a march or a protest with other people with you. That's a baby step. I want
Exactly.
I want to move beyond the baby step and stand out, stand up. I don't usually have to, but
Mm-hmm. Well, again, if you do a baby step, don't take that big leap. What's the next thing you
right,
can do?
right.
Maybe write a letter, maybe, who knows? The baby step will come to you. Mishkat, the thing that jumped out at me again when you were talking about the judges that were unfair and the misbehavior was allowed to become the norm,
Yes.
and that's so toxic, that it didn't even show forth uh, behavior that was, there were compassionate judges, but they didn't get to see it because the norm was the misbehavior and it took over.
Right.
Yeah.
Bishkat, has anything gotten any better over there, or is it exactly the same as when you were there living?
I don't want to be pessimistic, but perhaps it's worse a little bit.
Oh, really?
um, Healing did not take place.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the part. All these war had impact on society, and there's no healing. So it get amplified. Like you have a cut or a tore in a fabric, and then rather than stitching it, somehow it gets bigger. So
Mhm.
at some point, you start questioning what's going on with the society, what will happen to the social fabric.
Sure.
One case that I read around 2022, a police officer who was married to a beautiful young lady, and he kept abusing her. The last thing he did to her, he set her on fire.
Mm.
And she was in the hospital for quite some time before, she passed away. Nothing happened to him, of course. You see, that's why when you have a law that says it's okay to discipline,
Mhm.
no matter how many, barriers, oh, he went more than what is expected, oh, he crossed the line. If the line is to accept what's going to happen to the woman just because she's a woman, then once we as a society, we kind of cross that line, it will seem like, oh, it's just a step above the norm,
Mhm.
and another step and another step, until it's very difficult for the entire society to come down to normal. And
Sure.
that's leadership. That's the responsibility of a leader,
Yeah.
that would issue laws, issue policies, lead by example, and help the society to heal.
Mhm.
And that's the key here.
Sure.
Well, and bully-like behaviors, as long as it continues to be rewarded, it will continue to happen. It
Right.
becomes
Exactly.
it becomes celebrated instead of calling somebody out on it being bad behavior.
Well, and it really comes down to um, key attributes. I mean, respect.
Exactly.
Respect, and which then leads to mistrust if there's no respect. No integrity.
No integrity. That's
Yeah.
absolutely right. And it's not just in the courtrooms. It's also in classrooms, in households. You
Mm-hmm.
know, oftentimes, even when you look at curriculums,
Mm-hmm.
the female, the mother, the woman is always secondary to the man.
Mm-hmm.
So that, it start right there. You
Sure.
cannot issue a policy and have it hanging in the air, no roots.
Yeah.
You have to establish the roots from kindergarten. That's why you see so many Iraqi people, even Middle Eastern people, talk about the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, because society was very strong. Women were treated well. Oftentimes, they can walk down the street without anyone harassing them. They can go to work. They wear modern style clothes. But because we let go of that
Mm-hmm.
and then engaged in wars,
Mm-hmm.
we have built something else that nobody wants, but at the same time, there is no change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
So
you
you had your hand up, Cynthia. Oh, I'm sorry, Sandy.
I was just going to say, I'm looking back at what happened to the royal family. You talked about that in chapter 3. The government was born out of blood. Positive outcome on something like that. I mean, a
Right.
tragedy. It just continues to circulate in your society because that's what like you said earlier, that's what the norm has become. They never were called on it. They were never prosecuted. There was never a clear
No
line
result.
of responsibility
Mm-hmm.
made in regard to how that happened with the royal family.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, so many times, especially, in my moments of reflections, in my moment of, self thinking and reflecting, I would apologize to them. I didn't meet any one of them. I don't know any one of them.
Right.
But I feel, some sort of amends is required. You know, this was really a crime, and
It was
to
brutal.
be brutal and inhumane. In my opinion, it's almost a crime against humanity.
Sure.
You executed civilians. Isn't that a crime against humanity for
Yeah.
no reason whatsoever?
Right. Right.
Many of them were minors. The
Mhm.
king at the time was only 17 years old,
Yeah.
and they shot him dead execution style.
Mhm.
No one was held accountable. No one. This is wrong. And
Yeah.
someone needs to say this is wrong.
Right.
I have to tell you that when I traveled to Jordan, I met with the royal family there. And because they are related, there is some sort of a relationship between both of them. I apologized for what happened to their
Mhm.
relatives in Iraq.
Yeah.
It's not acceptable. Violence, no matter what it is, it's
Right.
not acceptable.
And the conscience then just gets totally, there is no conscience.
There's no conscience.
Every layer of misbehavior and bad doing just keeps erasing that that feeling that you might have some sort of a conscience about it.
Exactly. And violence becomes the answer.
Yeah.
So, whomever you deem evil, unacceptable, whatever the case is,
Hmm.
the answer is to lynch them. And
Hmm.
that's not the right answer.
Hmm. Cynthia, you had your hand up, my dear.
Well, I think Mishkat has answered it and Sandy addressed it, but it's the law that was passed in 1959 called Personal Status Law. It's on page 43,
Right.
and it was to protect women. This law was revolutionary for its time. I I'm assuming then war ripped it apart and you don't have those laws in place. And then to have judges who believe in discipline and you have to discipline a woman and the policeman that doesn't enforce it in his own home. You think
Yeah.
that all those laws that were in place, they're gone? We don't have any. How do you win a case? How do you win a case in front of a judge and a policeman that believe?
You know what? They introduced Sharia law instead of this particular law.
Hmm.
Ah,
Unfortunately, and I'm being straightforward with you, there isn't something called Sharia law. It's a couple of interpretation from scholars who lived centuries before our time. You don't need to abide by it. You need to develop your own. Nevertheless, if you want to control a society, you control women. The easiest way to control women is religion. You tell them it's not acceptable, it's against our beliefs and whatnot. And then you have everything quieting down because this is how your children will be raised. This is how, everyone will be behaving, and you are good to go. No opposition, nothing. Straightforward. And anyone who dares to say something different, oh, that person is not a believer. That person should be, thrown to hell.
Ostracized.
The way to do it is to argue from within. I recall, a paper that it's not a paper, perhaps a discussion that I drafted to teach women how to argue their rights using Sharia law, because there are, interpretations that allow them to stand up for themselves. But the thing is, these are buried deep down. It takes someone to dig them up. And of course, if you are seeking control, you won't dig them up.
No. No.
I remember, attending, and probably you will see it in other chapters because I talked about it, a conference about empowering women to, run for office, to have higher level positions. And when I get into the conference, I was facilitating a session about constitutional and legal rights of women. And I usually do a lot of preparations behind the scenes, so I knew what they will be asking me. So the minute I said a woman is allowed to run for office, the women said, no, 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 no. Ayatollah Sistani, who is like, if you want to think of the Pope, said women should not run for office. I said, absolutely, I respect that. But there is another Pope in town. Same level of authority, same level of expertise, and they know of him, who said women can run for office. Would you like to read his opinion? So I had the book with me and I asked one of the ladies to read it for the class or for the attendees. And I told them, so now what you think? That sounds reasonable. That sounds acceptable. Believe it or not, the same woman who read the opinion from that book with me, she became a parliamentarian later on. So you need to tell them how to argue from within.
Mhm.
In fact, that same scholar, or what I'm going to call the Pope, said, if your husband hit you, hit him back. Defend yourself.
Ah,
Yes, yes.
Oh my.
This is not acceptable.
Cat?
This is not a good relationship. And
Yeah.
if you need to defend yourself, do it.
Yeah. Well, and I heard you say this word, and it's connected to another word. You said the word control. So, that's what the authorities want, control, and they use fear.
Right.
Exactly.
And
And if I threaten you with God, that's the ultimate threat.
Right.
right,
Right.
right.
I also recall other conversations around, allowing women to give their citizenship to their sons and daughters.
Mm.
And so many women opposed it, believe it or not, because they said that it's not allowed and it's against the Quran and things like that.
Mhm.
Somehow, luckily for me, I studied Sharia law as part of my legal education. I had to, not by choice, but to complete my studies. So I told her, according to the Quran, a son can inherit from his mother, a daughter can inherit. And by this logic, why cannot the
Mhm.
mother pass the citizenship to her son or daughter? She
Sure.
said, I didn't think of it that way. You
Well,
see,
yeah.
the thing is that the concept itself, that
Mhm.
oppressive concept, was never challenged, never challenged.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so dominating.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because in the Bible, the Christian Bible, Jesus' lineage passed through Mary,
Yes.
not through Joseph. So yeah, it was written, like you say, but it's that interpretation. So anything else around this before we let's just wrap up chapter 3 by talking about who was seen and who was unseen.
is this the chapter that has the little girl that all
Not yet. No. But
Okay.
chapter
Chapter
3 is the
4.
one
That's
talking about
more.
advocacy. We're going to get into that next. That's why I want to move us ahead. But just in this advocacy piece and talking about control and talking about passion driving your advocacy, who do you see as who's some people in there that are seen?
All single mothers, all divorced women, all widowed women, anyone who's trying to stand up for themselves and oppressed for it.
Yeah,
I have to say also all those who were wrongfully killed.
yeah.
There is a lot of grief
Mhm,
that comes with unresolved death, so to
mhm.
speak, or uncalled for.
Right.
Right.
and someone needs to take ownership of it,
Right.
whether they
Yeah.
contributed to it or not. It's something that we need, excuse me, as a society to acknowledge as wrong.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And I'm wondering if it doesn't cross, it doesn't, it's not just the generation that it happens to. It's generational. It's passed on.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? From generation to generation because it's unresolved. You
There's
I
a
know.
part.
agree.
There's a part that you wrote here. You say, "Who is seen in this chapter? The young professional, new to the field, underestimated, told to wait their turn, to stay quiet, to prove themselves twice as much for half the credit. But they didn't wait for validation. They prepared, showed up, and delivered."
Hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, anybody you want to mention that perhaps was unseen? Is there anybody that, um, and I like what you said, Mishkat, about apologizing for the, deaths that were not, not justified. None of it's justified.
So many, beliefs, such as the Hawaiian beliefs of forgiveness and asking for amends. Some of the Buddhist also teaching. It passes through generations.
Mm,
So whatever the ancestors did that
mhm.
was unresolved,
Right.
it passes through. So oftentimes, when they practice the Ho'oponopono,
Hmm.
the asking for forgiveness,
Mhm.
it's also to forgive whatever the ancestors did,
Sure.
which
Yeah.
is true. It passes through
Yeah.
and it will continue until someone,
So
And it's
that's
steps up
unresolved,
and not
unresolved
yeah.
accept it.
trauma. Yeah,
Back
unresolved trauma through the
going back to
generations.
yeah, going back to the Bible, it talks about sins of the fathers being visited by generation after
Mhm.
generation after generation. If there is
Yes,
not a line of demarcation and saying this is where it ends, we're not doing this anymore, it
Mhm.
continues. So
It does.
therefore, yeah,
Yeah, and it almost morphs because
right.
the original thing that happened is perceived differently, through the generations. Okay, we're going to move into chapter 4, talking about Mishkat's experiences, even as a very young child,
Oh my God.
not being seen and not being heard, and being unjustly, um, you know, I don't know, taken, unjustly blamed for things and things that you didn't even understand.
She was blamed not because of her behavior, but
Right.
because of her being.
Yeah. Hmm.
God.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. And the woman teacher, this is interesting to me. A woman teacher was the one
Yeah,
that got you in trouble for using your evil hand. I'm left-handed, and it's like a woman perpetrating that to another woman. What was she thinking?
right. But she must
yes.
have been either fearful
Right.
or so that I don't know how you break the brainwashing.
Hmm.
I don't know how you get the demarcation and stop it.
Hmm.
Is there anybody over there like you, Mishkat, today? Who is helping?
Um, um, Honestly, day to day people, the average person, tend to be kind, but unfortunately, they are misled. And that's the key issue here. The entire country, marched from one war to another, from one war to another, until war became the norm. So if there is, no fight, no us against them, then there must be something else. And to break that cycle, you have to start one from classrooms. So even growing up, I was told that hitting was not allowed. Guess what? I haven't seen a class where a teacher did not hit anybody or verbally abuse them.
Or your father abusing you with by hitting you?
Yes. Yes, that's the norm. That's how it should be. And someone needs to break that cycle to introduce the concept of not only equality, that we are all equal, we should treat each other with respect, but to accept and respect living being.
Right.
You see, that part needs to come to life. Sometimes, when I used to sit with friends, colleagues, and the issue of animal rights come to part or to discussion,
Yeah.
they would say, "Oh, what about human beings who died? This is a life and this is a life. They need to be respected,
Mhm.
including trees." That's why, for example, Iraq lost like 80% of its palm tree forests. That's why, Baghdad is the fourth city threatened with climate change. It trickles down. The father
Right.
treat the mother this way, the employer treat employee this way, teachers to treat their students this way. It trickles down. So, you have to start upstream and treat it from the top. Oftentimes, women's issues are marginalized as, oh, let's talk about health issues. Let's talk about healthy diet. Not that these are not important, they are. But you cannot leave the elephant in the room and start talking about these issues.
Mhm.
The country did establish a ministry for women's affairs.
Wow.
It's doing nothing.
Oh, Mishkat, I so apologize to you. Please keep going. I have to leave you, but I can't wait till the next time we meet. You're the
Thank
best.
you. Thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate it.
Leaving you. Mm.
Cynthia, we'll miss you, honey. We'll see
Bye
you
bye.
later.
Keep going. Don't stop that thought. Keep
Oh
going.
yeah, we still got some stuff to talk over, I think. I've got a question for Miss Cat. Have a good afternoon. Hey, Miss Cat, I wanted to ask you, when I'm reading this, your dad is punitive with you about, you don't, and your mom keeps disappearing. Where did you find your place for trust and comfort as a child? Because it seems to me like you were left hanging.
My pets. I did have a cat, and I still love cats and adopt them. So I find comfort with my pets then through my drawings, through reading and researching. You see, that's why these kind of, I'm going to call activities that don't depend on adults,
Right.
these are the ones that I like very much
Mhm.
because I can ensure continuity, whether at the time I knew it or not.
Mhm.
But that what gave me comfort.
Did
Yeah.
you feel
And
abandoned by my mom? Did you feel abandoned by mom, or is that just kind of part of the rhythm of your home?
Um, there were so many times when I needed my mom, and of course, she was not there.
mm,
I understand, and I also understood at the time that she was pursuing a goal, so to speak,
mhm.
and that goal meant a lot to her, and I respected that. But unfortunately, I was penalized for it,
Mhm.
um, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So
Mhm.
that continued to be um, an issue. I remember a teacher once told me, there was a parents' meeting, and my father went. but my mother did not. And that continued. So she called me. She said, "Where's your mom?" And I gave, the interpretation that was given to me at the time.
Mhm.
She kept saying, but still, she needs to be here for you. And I felt it as well. There were so many times where, as a young child, I went to class with my hair not combed, without a lunch. It was really, um, for lack of a better term, a continuous struggle. And
Mhm.
sometimes, of course, teachers would call me upon it. W- I still remember a teacher telling me, "Didn't your mother see you before you leave?" My hair was long. Most girls, my age used to keep their hair long, but it was really messy. So
Yeah.
I didn't say anything. Of course, it was disrespectful to argue with the teacher. So I just nodded and apologized at the time. But, these are some of the situations that I found myself, living through. Oh, my apologies. Let me silence that. I forgot to do it. My sincere apology.
What it
Thank you.
So,
what it
Mishka, um,
seems to me, Cat, is like you were building your muscle as far as strength. With mom and dad not really being there in a positive way to you, you found your own path.
mhm,
Yes,
mhm. Yeah.
I always felt there was something bigger,
Mhm.
and I didn't know what it is, but I felt it exists.
Mhm.
Whether, I came to that conclusion through, cartoons, movies, reading,
Mhm.
um, you name it, I've done it. So I came to that conclusion that there was something bigger and better.
So,
Um,
two things. Oftentimes our parents don't nurture us because they've never been nurtured.
True.
I mean, it can be very generational. Not that it gives the excuse, but it's
Absolutely.
it's pretty. It's not uncommon for kids not to be nurtured the way it would be nice that they were nurtured.
Right.
Um, and leaders that you were born with a leadership germ in you, and so how we say nurture and nature. There's some nature involved here, not just how you were nurtured. Lots of examples of people that have been through awful things as children, and they came out because they had that vision. You have that vision planted in your heart that there's something more, and you kept going, and it kept you, even though you were unseen, it kept you unbroken. And really, really important. Um, because it would have been lovely to have been nurtured, and it just didn't happen. Because of the culture, because of your parents, and most parents do the best they can, but sometimes they just don't
Mhm.
know. You
That
know.
is true. Honestly, one of the healing practices that I do, I relive my childhood through my sons.
Mhm.
So I don't recall, maybe once or twice my birthday was celebrated.
Mhm.
Um, it's to me, it's a very vague memory.
Mhm.
But I make it a habit to celebrate my son's birthday.
Mhm.
And, last 2023, I decided to give him two-tiered cake. I felt the joy myself.
Mhm.
It's something joyful to be celebrated,
Yeah.
to surprise him with gifts, to, enjoy that special day, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Mhm.
and so on and so forth. Even things like going to the movies. I didn't get a chance to go to the movies. I recall, going once, and somehow the atmosphere was not that welcoming. So
Yeah,
I didn't enjoy it. But my son and I, go to the movies regularly. So my advice to someone who did not have a fulfilling childhood is to relive it through their children. If they don't have children, maybe relive it with their pets, with, something that brings them, or someone that brings them joy.
sure. Some sort of celebration and
Yes.
nurturing activity. I like that. That's very, very good. So, so Mishkat, um, what is another component of your childhood that really felt unseen?
Oh, well, boy, perhaps all of it.
Yeah.
It's so easy to dismiss a child.
Mm-hmm.
First, even the word that is used in Iraq for a child, it translates literally to ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
So a child is someone who's ignorant. That makes the child less of a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps because they are small and tiny, we tend to think of them, at least in the host nation, in Iraq, as less of a human being.
Right.
But once you start treating them as equals, you see, you will start to enjoy life with them.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to hit them to discipline them. You need to love them and take care of them and enjoy, that part of their life with you,
Sure.
and so on and so forth. So the unseen part, to be honest with you, I felt like most of my childhood was that little child who was, pushed around here and there. In a way, just like the young attorney professional
Mm-hmm.
who was not taken seriously at the beginning. But once I presented my case and presented the findings, now it's a different story.
Sure.
So,
Well,
Did
interestingly enough, you talk about visibility is not always a reward because you talk about the child whose hair got pulled out. Um, she had long hair and stuff, and she made the teacher mad. I mean,
yeah,
sometimes you got punished for being seen, and so then that would make you even more confused as to the fact that yeah, I want to be seen as a human, but that can be also there can be a backlash to that.
that is true. And oftentimes, young girls get punished for being seen. Um, I recall, at one time, as students, we were going to the math class, and one of my colleagues, she was really elegantly dressed, very nice, like little young woman. The teacher grabbed her from her hand. We just entered the class, she hadn't done anything, and then slapped her on her face. Until this day, I don't know what my colleague did to deserve that. And it continues, I one other colleague, she had beautiful nails. She didn't put anything on them, but it would look like she had like a clear coat on them. The whole class was stopped, and the teacher sent someone to grab nail polish remover and asked her to remove it. Half of the hour was gone to talk about nail polish and whatever the case is. Another, friend of mine, back in the 80s, there was this trend doing, perms to your hair.
mm-hmm.
Right.
The principal grabbed her from her hair and put it under water, under cold water. And it was really winter, very cold. Her hair fell, all of it.
Mm,
In addition to having some brain damage from
Sure.
putting her head under cold water for maybe 10, 15 minutes.
Mm,
So that was the price you pay for being seen.
yeah.
So many people would try to, you know, keep the head down, do whatever it takes to be unseen.
Hmm. Yeah. So
So it seems like it was a win, a lose lose, no matter what you did.
Unless you find your cause and
hmm
you advocate for it.
yeah, that's that passion that keeps you going, the flame that can't be put out. So, Mishkat, with all of your experiences, um, I'm I'm hunching that somehow it all crafted you into being the woman you are today.
For sure.
For saying that, honestly, it's not an easy path.
Mm,
And I have to tell you that I still get nightmares no matter what I do to get rid of them, even
sure.
though, um, I follow my therapist advisor who would say, change the ending. When
Hmm.
you wake up, uh, go through the nightmare itself and then change the ending to whatever you want it to be.
Sure.
Um, what I would encourage anyone who experience system failing is to find their passion and find a cause
Hmm.
to help others. When you help others, you help yourself, you
Yes.
empower yourself through
Hmm.
the process. You find your voice, you
Mm,
find your path.
yeah.
You learn what does it mean to stand up
Mm,
for someone else so as you yourself can do it. And that's the real power. It's
sure.
not control, it's not
No.
authority, it's not money or wealth. It's your ability to stand up for those who cannot stand for themselves.
Right.
I
And then
love
you
that.
find people too. Your people come along with you. You know, and
Yes.
your followers, your community, so to speak. But it's just, I hope you can, in a small way, um, feel proud of where you are and the impact you're making on the world. You just are a truly unique person, and you are giving the world such a gift, just, through your life and through your stories. And, you know, so I hope you can just accept that as a true compliment. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
So am I.
Honestly, thank you. It means the world to me to hear it from great leaders such as yourself, full of compassion, full of support, ready to go the extra mile for someone else. And above all, you are giving us this podcast on regular basis to make us feel, make every leader, feel like there is a safe place for us to talk, to express ourselves, to learn and grow. Oftentimes when you ask about, takeaways or what you've learned, or, Sandy, when you go ahead and read the extra chapter and share it with us ahead of time, I feel like, empowered. Wow. Here is another piece of wisdom that I missed. Here is another thought that I could reflect on and build on. And oftentimes, without that discussion, I cannot, write my Sunday newsletter or complete my book. You help me read and review the chapters before I published. I'm preparing a novella called The Unseen Child.
Mm,
And, I want to expand on this idea about the unseen child. It's also through storytelling and lived experiences. And I'm hoping to build that ministry of
mhm,
those who are unseen and unbroken. I oftentimes imagine myself in a big conference room with so many people, And I just tell them, you are all seen now.
Yeah.
Honestly, that gives me not only motivation, but the power to continue to keep going, you know.
Yes,
Well,
and I
that's your find your passion.
yeah.
It really started way back when, but it's morphed into something more. And the unseen child is going to definitely touch lots of lives, lots of adults that were
Right.
wounded, but lots of kids that, society just might see them through a little
Oh,
wink
hopefully.
finger,
What I
Um,
That's what I was going to share is that every nation, all around the world, there are kids who do not
mhm.
get seen.
Exactly.
You
It's
think that different countries, like in America, America, we've got how many sex trafficking? We have sex trafficking going on full of kids. I mean, we have our own issues in regard to children who are lost in the foster system. I mean, there's all the way around the world, this message can impact their
Yeah.
lives. Mishkat.
Well, and Mishkat, you've got a wonderful son that has been seen.
Yes.
yes, thank
Have,
you so much for saying that.
have you
Change
ever
the paradigm.
reflected? Have you ever
Yes.
reflected with him on what it feels like to be seen and nurtured? And that would be a great reflection piece for him to write about, or you to write about. I mean, it would be wonderful to see a a contrast there.
Yes.
The cover of The Unseen Child, it's a drawing my son developed.
Oh, wow.
So I took his permission. He started the sketch. I just did the coloring. So
Uh,
I always tell him it's your
yeah,
drawing, not mine.
yeah, yeah.
But there is no day that passes by when we don't exchange this sentence, I'm proud of you. He tells me that he's proud of me. I tell him I'm proud of him.
It's wonderful.
We have kind of a friendship going on.
Yeah.
And we reach that part because there is no control. I don't try to tell him what to do or how to do it or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And we've built that
Mhm.
throughout the years, and I continue to be so proud of him, and I feel blessed that I have him in my life.
Yeah.
Blessed to have you as his mom too,
Thank you.
Mishkat.
So
Those both ways.
I mean, you're an artist. You're a visual artist. You're a writer. You're a creative person. How has that helped form, um, who you are, your art, and your? Um, Tell me a little bit about that.
Part of the healing process and finding ways to express yourself.
Mhm.
So, because I lived under a dictatorship, using words was too dangerous,
Mm.
but I could hide it in a sketch.
Yeah.
So I started that process and, read a lot about the Impressionist movement and,
Mhm.
how art evolved and how to express yourself. And that helped me. That helped me stay sane. Just like you said, I felt I'm not the only one.
Mhm.
All other people,
Yeah.
sorry, artists went through that.
Mhm.
And I associate with the Impressionist school
Yeah. Mhm.
because it helps you express.
Mhm.
And most of its leaders also struggled.
Mhm.
So that's another piece.
Right.
And I would always encourage, young kids, anyone who can, draw a line, to try to draw another line because that would make you stronger.
Oh, I like that.
You know, it's another way of finding your voice.
hmm hmm And the Impressionists. Your book title is perfect for an impressionist. the unseen, unbroken. I'm going to express it. And if you are intuitive, you'll feel it. Yeah, that's
That's a
powerful.
great way of thinking about it. Honestly, I never thought of it that way. But that's another, um, reflection piece that I receive a piece of wisdom and joy through this wonderful conversation.
Yeah. Well, both chapters are just amazing today. And let's do a takeaway. Sandy, I'm going to let you start. What's a takeaway from our discussion on the two chapters today?
My takeaway is that we can be brave up against any kind of situation and that we can do it one step at a time.
Yeah. I'm going to say that such an expansive conversation, starting out with so many limitations that could have very much broken a spirit, but your spirit rose above it because of your passion and because of who you are. And you're just another amazing story of a conquering and becoming present in this world today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mish.
both of you. And I appreciate also Cynthia. I know she left to catch an appointment. But without you, ladies, all of that, the conversation, the takeaways, the reflections won't be there. And you might say, okay, but you wrote the book, so that's about it. There's nothing needed. That's the beginning. Through these conversations, we learn more. We find ways to connect. We find ways to grow, and we find ways to stand up for ourselves. No matter what it is, it can be something big or small, but we learn how to stand up for ourselves.
Yes. Baby steps, huh?
Right?
Baby steps, and sometimes baby steps, as
That's
you
right.
That's right.
say.
Right. Yeah, I've been there before. Oh, thank you, Mishkat, and we'll send out the dates for the next book club. I'm thinking that it might be 3 weeks just because of Sandy and my schedule. We don't want to cram too many episodes into one day. So I'll send out an email for all of us. And for all of you out there, we'd love for you to join us. We're here.
Thank you
And
very much. You make our world better, Mishkat.
yeah,
Thank you. It's better because you exist in it.
yes. Well, we're a team. All of
Yes.
us
Exactly.
are a team.
Better
It
for each other.
takes
Absolutely.
all of us. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye now, and all the rest of you have a wonderful day and take some baby steps tomorrow. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Hang on.